Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is November 18th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You see British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, lots of cold air still spilling into the region. We're going to have thunderstorms again today, kind of a repeat of yesterday, maybe a few less showers, but still an active weather day here across Pacific Northwest. But our next huge weather maker is out across Pacific Ocean. This subtropical moisture, this very warm air mass is going to merge and meet with this trough across the Gulf of Alaska and this very cold air and spin up a massive mid-latitude cyclone, one of the lowest pressures ever recorded in the offshore waters for the Pacific Northwest. Some damaging winds will occur, powerful atmospheric river, and we have additional storms possible on in through the end of next week. We'll start to take a look at that a bit here through this video as well. So if I put this into motion, we've got this atmospheric river pouring across Pacific Northwest, and you can really see our mid-latitude cyclone spin up quite nicely south of Haida Gwaii, right off the Washington coastline there. And then as we see that atmospheric river bounce around across California and Oregon at times, we see additional mid-latitude cyclone development there. And we really got to watch that one. That has some powerful winds associated with it as well, if that were to verify as what the weather models have been showing over the last couple of days. So we'll take a little bit of a look at that here. But of course, we're going to spend the majority of our time on this huge mid-latitude cyclone that is developing as we go through the day tomorrow off our coast. So I selected this station here, Enumclaw, Washington. I got a lot of comments about what is the best weather station to buy for your own home, and this one is probably it, the Tempest weather station. If I scroll in here, it stores all the data for you in the cloud. The desktop app and the smartphone app are great. It's a lightning detection system. Highly recommend the station. Click on that link down below to save 10%. Now, taking a look at what was going on yesterday, you can see all the lightning activity across some of southwest BC, some of the Washington coastline there, right near Long Beach, and a little bit further inland near Raymond, for example. A lot of lightning strikes, cloud to ground strikes. And we're going to be kind of doing that again today. As you can see, as I scroll to where we are now, we still have that cold air cumulus moving in. Maybe the showers won't be quite as numerous, but again, watch out for that lightning potential. Now, taking a look at the Doppler radar over the next 60 hours, you can see the mountain snow off and on as we go through the day today. More thunderstorm potential kind of riding over the coastline there. And then we get an interesting feature coming across tonight. Could lower the snow levels a little bit, but mostly it should be a novelty. We're not expecting significant accumulating snowfall down into the lower elevations of western Oregon or western Washington, southwest BC, maybe a little bit more up there. But again, it should be a novelty. You should be able to handle that. And then as the storm system, our big mid-latitude cyclone starts to ramp up, it's going to bring some moisture that could be falling in the form of snow for places like Ritzville, Moses Lake, Spokane, maybe Highway 2 there as well. So we're going to watch that feature through Wednesday morning. Heads up for that. Now, this is the high resolution rapid refresh. We got lightning activity again today, just driving home that point with a thunderstorm potential. One of these could even try to sneak into some of the interior areas of the Puget Sound or the Willamette Valley as we go through the day today. Now, taking a look at the snowfall, we got snow flying off and on for the next couple of days across the higher terrain. You can see it piling up across the Cascades. Then we get the Tuesday system start to bring some more snowfall there. And again, you're going to see some of this teasing out to the lower elevations, but again, not a lower elevation disruptive snowfall. However, you could get some accumulating snowfall. Just an inch or two can make things pretty slick for Ritzville, Moses Lake, and Highway 2, definitely going to be more snow than versus I-90, and you could get some accumulating snow for Spokane on Wednesday morning also. Now, Seattle-Tacoma National Weather Service has the high wind watch up for some of the foothill communities and the coastal regions here. And Oregon has done the same for the coastal range right now, and some portions of the eastern Oregon also have high wind watches in effect. But if you want, you can pause this and you can see which different cities right now are under the high wind watch, just to 65 miles per hour, potentially even locally higher. This is from Tuesday evening through Tuesday night, but I would have your ducks in a row by Tuesday morning. You need to be preparing now if you are across some of the western Cascade foothills all the way up north of Everett, Skagit, Whatcom County even. You need to be prepared because these easterly winds are an unusual direction. It does not take a lot of wind to really cause some excessive tree damage. Now, this is looking at Portland National Weather Service. So much going on. It just looks like a complete fruitcake here. You can check this out on NOAA.gov if you need to know your individual location, but we got winter storm warnings. We got high wind watches up. Talking about a lot of precipitation for some areas, mainly central and southern Oregon. We have high surf advisories, some really big winds coming for the Oregon coast. So much to go over. But I do want to point this out because Spokane is so good. You can see Ritzville 1 to 2, Moses Lake 1 to 2. They are all over this potential early morning snowfall for Wednesday morning. Look at Spokane, potentially 2 to 3 inches. Davenport 3 to 4, and of course big amounts across the higher terrain. You can see Colville out there in Bonners Ferry, 2 to 3 inches. Lookout Pass, this is on I-90. You could be looking at a half a foot or even more of snow there, and you can see when all said and done, you could be looking at 18 inches for Lookout Pass. So watch out if you're traveling back and forth on I-90 through Idaho and portions of Montana. The lower elevations, not nearly as much snowfall as once you get up a bit higher. Now, this is Pendleton, Oregon National Weather Service. Look at Bend, Oregon, La Grande, Redmond, 51 miles per hour. So, yeah, you can see your individual locations here. And some of the higher terrain are going to have gusts that do exceed this, over 60 miles per hour. Now, this is Medford, Oregon. Just so much going on here. Very strong winds for the coast, the higher terrain. Some snow will be initially expected over places like the Siskiyous, and some I-5 here, Highway 89, Mount Shasta. And then Wednesday and beyond, the snow levels are going to rise here. So we're going to melt some of that snow, and additional windy periods are possible during that time frame. So quickly, Storm Prediction Center, thunderstorm potential today, excessive rainfall outlook. This is for tomorrow. This is for Wednesday morning. Look at the slight introduced, and look at the day 4 moderate for Northern California. It does include portions of some of Southern Oregon with the slight, and up into some of Western Oregon with the marginal. And there's day 5. So just an absolutely ridiculous atmospheric river pointed at portions of Northern California and Oregon at times. So quickly, with the total precipitation, before we start to go into some of the wind threats here across the region, you can see this start to pile up here across some of the regions. But we're not looking at huge flooding amounts, for example, for British Columbia, for the Washington Cascades. You see some bigger amounts sneaking in there at times. But again, not the big time flooding that we're worried about here across Washington State. It's more of the wind threat. So as we go on into the extended, this is only 144 hours out. This is about Saturday night here, and you can see some of the big amounts for some of the coastal areas of Oregon, especially Southwest and California. Now, this is what is known as the mean sea level pressure contours. The European has 50 of these. So there are 50 of these lines, and the closer they are together, the more confident we are in with our forecast. And if we scroll on out towards Tuesday afternoon, look at this. This storm is on its way, folks. There is no doubt about it. All models are in unanimous agreement with this very deep low setting up off our coastline here. This is yesterday morning's ensemble, and this is late last night's ensemble members here. So yeah, no doubt about it. The storm system is on its way. And on a side note there, you can see we've trended a bit stronger and further towards the coastline with some powerful low pressure centers as we go on in towards Thursday and Friday. So we really got to watch that one for additional rounds of powerful winds here across Pacific Northwest. And to kind of drive home the point here, this system is on its way. This is the ensemble member mean civil pressure minimum, and you can see, it's tightly clustered right in here. So that grouping, it definitely shows that we have high forecast confidence in the storm developing right off our coastline. And you can see some of these huge wild pressure gradients. They're going to be driving out of the east at times as we go over the day tomorrow mainly. So we're going to be covering that here in a moment, getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So let's take a look at the high resolution rapid refresh. It is now in range of Tuesday's activity. So we got the onshore flow and the showers going on today, and then watch things just switch up, and the entire region starts to come out of the south and the southeast. Powerful winds start first for some of the higher terrain of Northern California, Oregon coast. You can see things starting to get ripping here out of the east for the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and then things really start ramping up as we go through the afternoon hours for the foothill communities of western Washington. And man, we're going to have a couple surprises with this system here as well. And some of the high resolution models are not in agreement with the European on what kind of winds we're expecting for some of the Puget Sound and the Willamette Valley, and some of the higher terrain is no doubt just going to get hammered. But look as I scroll on in towards about 8 o'clock tomorrow. Look at some of these winds just absolutely ripping out of the east. This is going to cause some extensive tree damage here. You guys, you really got to be prepared today if you are off in the foothill communities. Again, this is a warning because some of these winds are going to get out towards the I-5 corridor, potentially even, and you just have to prepare as if they are, because right now we still have some model disagreement on just how damaging these winds are going to be. And look at some of the Oregon coast and Washington coast. Some ridiculous southerly winds will be racing up as we go through Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday night also. And then finally, those winds come to a little bit of a break there. But also, I want to point this out. You see this surge right there up the Willamette Valley? That would bring some gusts in excess of 45 towards 50 miles per hour for some areas. And the European, for example, shows much less. But I'll show you that here in a moment. Now, what is going on here across some of Western Washington, the foothill communities? So this is wording directly from the National Weather Service. I've been talking about this for a few days now, and they finally started to mention this in their forecast discussion. They talk about the 850 millibar winds, or in the first 5,000 feet. They're out of the southeast, and you notice things turn to the southwest once you get above 5,000 feet. So that's going to create this stable layer at about 5,000 feet. So you could have some of these mountain waves get trapped in there, and some of these could bounce down back towards the surface for some extremely damaging gusts. It could exceed 70, 75 miles per hour for some isolated locations. And there's really no way, we don't have the resolution really to tell exactly where those mountain waves are going to come crashing down towards the surface. And they mentioned that here, always hard to predict where the mountain waves will surface if they develop. In past, the mountain wave events for Enumclaw, Buckley, Black Diamond, and far west of Maple Valley have been hit by surfacing mountain waves. And I've got a little oscillating wave on there for you. But yeah, interesting stuff. I mean, look at that stable layer there and the very potent winds down low coming off the mountains. This is going to be absolutely wild as we go through tomorrow. Now, looking at the European, I'm going to scroll through this, and you can see the winds start again for the Oregon coast first. But look at some of these winds. The European is showing some of these very strong winds getting out towards I-5 for places north of Marysville and Everett. So you really got to be careful here, but it shows much less wind for some of the Puget Sound coastal areas here, but it does reach out towards SeaTac, and the European's been pretty bullish on giving SeaTac 50 plus mile per hour winds as well. But back in the foothill communities, you could be looking at 75 miles per hour, which would cause some extensive tree damage, no doubt. And look at some of these winds for the higher terrain of Oregon as well. But look at the Willamette Valley, with that southeasterly component that the European is favoring. It's not showing much in the way of these high wind speeds. These are very much more manageable. And same thing with a lot of the Puget Sound. You see Olympia and Tacoma only gusting into the 30s. However, as I showed you, the HRRR, the high resolution rapid refresh, does not agree with that. And if we take a look at the North American model as well, I mean, this should be not safe for work here. So hide your children's eyes when I show you this map. But look at some of these winds that the NAM wants to paint across the area. I mean, these are kind of the easterly component. If you're bringing 55 mile per hour winds out of the east towards some of the coastal regions of the Puget Sound, tree damage will be extensive and borderline catastrophic, and you will be without power for days. So hopefully this does not develop. And you can see that through the Willamette Valley, it's also showing some of these extreme winds as we go. And in fact, I want to back this up a little bit here because I want to see if it does show the timing on that southerly surge through the Willamette Valley. It does kind of show it there here, again, as we go through it late Tuesday night. So yeah, I wish we had more agreement between the European and the NAM and the HRRR. It makes me a little bit nervous there that the HRRR and the NAM have such damaging wind gusts here for some of the area. But if we take a look, this is the European. This, was on the weaker side versus the high resolution models. And you can see just a ridiculous wind gusts for places like Brookings, Oregon, Gold Beach. Look at the latest control. I mean, you're talking 76 miles per hour, just ridiculous. And here we go with Siskiyou Summit. You're traveling back and forth on I-5. You're driving trucks through Oregon tomorrow. Be very careful across the higher terrain. You might want to just try to skip tomorrow if at all possible. Snoqualmie Pass, we're talking about gusts over 60 miles per hour for Snoqualmie Pass. This is right up towards the ski resort here. So you can imagine in some of the ridge tops and some of the exposed areas is just going to be absolutely howling as we go through the afternoon tomorrow. So be prepared. Anybody living out there, get ready here, folks. And this is Silverton. I mean, look at some of these gusts well up towards 60. The ensemble mean into the upper 50s almost. Surprise Creek, Washington, 58 miles per hour, severe gusts. And look at SeaTac. I mean, all the way out towards SeaTac, 55, and the ensemble mean is into the mid-50s. Just ridiculously powerful winds rolling in. And this is going to include places like Kent East Hill, Issaquah, some of the higher terrain around Issaquah, Renton, look at 55. Arlington, I tell you what, if you're gusting 52 out of the east for Arlington Municipal Airport, the tree damage is going to be terrific, folks. And again, there's the HRRR. I just kind of showed you that one more time. I mean, hopefully these gusts do not materialize out of the east down into the lower Puget Sound area because it's going to cause huge problems. And also, we've got big wave action. We still got some elevated wave heights out there for Tuesday and Wednesday, and you can clearly see some of the waves kicked up by this. I mean, you're looking at potentially 25-foot breakers at high tide there for portions of Vancouver Island, maybe even 30. Who knows, 30 plus, depending on how this, the wave action is actually going on out there. Yeah, so big time wave watching on the day Wednesday. The good news is the winds will be calming down somewhat here, at least the very high damaging winds as we go through the day Wednesday, save for maybe some of the coastal regions. It'll still be quite windy, I should mention that. But also, I'm going to bounce out here really quick. We're going to look at maximum individual wave height. So basically, you're pegging the scale here, folks. You're talking about waves in excess. Some of those individual wave heights out there could be over 60 miles per hour, 60 feet, but that's not going to get all the way towards the coastline. But we could be getting some seas towards 30 feet. We'll see what the National Weather Service has to say about that in their marine section later today. But anyway, I'm going to get this video out now. Hopefully, I've given you some ample warning. I may do another video here tonight. I probably will, just because we'll go over the most recent model runs. We'll look at the 12Z European and the 18Z European model. We'll try to get some consistency between the high resolution models and the European, just to kind of give you a better heads up. But you should be prepared for damaging winds across much of the region. But I've also got to throw this in there. This is not the Columbus Day storm. This storm is further off to the west. The Columbus Day storm was very close to the coastline, and that's why it brought just absolutely catastrophic winds to some of the region. This is not that storm, and this is a different wind direction than that storm as well. So I want to make sure to get that out there. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, I will talk to you again later today, and if not, tomorrow morning. I will be out chasing the storm probably Tuesday and Wednesday also, so I'll be live streaming at times as well. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys later, and have a good day.